Welcome to Connect Vegas. We feature conversations with Las Vegas creators and leaders, learn about their work, and explore our shared love of our favorite city. And now, welcome our host, Ben Laifsky.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Connect Vegas podcast. I'm Ben Laifsky, your host. I'm here to introduce a conversation with my good friend, Leah Martin. Leah is the principal of Leah Martin Law, a local business law firm that also has offices in several other markets. It was a really enjoyable conversation with Leah. I've known her for a number of years. She's an avid networker, a hiker, a traveler, a reader. Just so much to talk about with her. She's very active in the local community, and I really hope you enjoyed this conversation with Leah Martin. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Connect Vegas podcast. I am here with Leah Martin. Leah, could you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Absolutely. So, my name is Leah Martin. I am an attorney here in Las Vegas. I've been practicing for 22 years now, and I have offices here, Phoenix, and Reno.
Awesome. And could you talk about the types of law you practice and types
Uh,
of clients you help?
yeah, for sure. So, we do pretty much exclusively business law. So, really everything from helping businesses develop their strategies, formation, licensing, contracts. We do a good bit in the construction world, so we help with things like the liens that they need. We also do litigation and demand letters, cease and desist letters, all of the less friendly parts when it becomes necessary for businesses to go down that path. And we also do trademarks and a little bit of estate planning.
Okay.
And I would say, and the kinds of clients we serve, it really is pretty much any type of business or prospective business owners. So it's mostly people who are either in that beginning phase where they're strategizing how they want to get their business going, whether that's a side gig or a new full time business. We work with a lot of people who are already in business or maybe taking that one business and spinning it into multiple businesses. And then some of our business owners are more mature, including public companies that we're handling their non SEC work.
When you meet with people that are prospective clients, how do you describe the value that your firm provides?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that people can do on their own. And a lot of people, when they're getting started with business, want to save those dollars and go do it themselves. We're not going to be necessarily the right fit for those people, at least for some things, because there is some cost involved in hiring an attorney, but we take all of the unknowns out of the process. We allow them to do what they're really good at instead of trying to figure out a process and a system that they're unfamiliar with. So it's really taking the stress away and taking the time drain of learning how to set up a business away that we're able to offer them, but also the assurance that with things like contract, it's done. It's not a form that they're pulling from the internet that's like basically the gray shell of contracts that is meant to fit any business but has no customization for their business. So that's the cool thing about law is there's so much flexibility with how things are done. So we're able to really help them strategize to create a plan and contracts and everything that's really fitting to them and their business and the trajectory they're on.
Yeah, I imagine every dollar you save with one of those shortcuts can be spent many times over.
Absolutely. Spending money on a good contract is a lot less expensive than litigating a bad one.
Very well said. Want to get a little background on you. Talk about where you grew up and what were your hobbies and interests when you were growing up.
Absolutely. So I grew up in southern Indiana in a very small town. My dad was in the coal mining industry there. So I lived there till I was 12 and I had a lot of nature around me and not a lot of people. So I spent a lot of time reading, and I'm still an avid reader today, but I also spent a lot of time in my own imaginary worlds that I would create. So the Little House on the Prairie books back then were big in my list of books I loved. So I would create my own homestead or whatever. I would go and find like acorns or rose petals or different things that I could harvest and set myself up for winter. Some may also say I was like a squirrel, but I was a little gatherer and just made my own little worlds. And then when I was 12, I moved to Elko, Nevada, also a place that forces a little bit of creativity because it's a smaller town. And there I found I became really involved in every extracurricular activity you can imagine, which helped me flesh out what my interests are and explore different aspects of myself, not just keeping on one little path.
Wow. For somebody that grew up with so much nature and living in your imagination, you're a really outgoing person. You would almost think that you'd become more introverted that way, but you didn't.
Think I had so much alone time growing up that I was like ready to like let it all out. But I was very shy as a child. Right. In my earlier years, I talked to very few people. And even in school, there were certain teachers that connected well with me, but I really did not make a lot of friends as a small child because I was like afraid to talk to people. And that definitely the switch flipped on that when I was moving from Indiana to Nevada because I very consciously decided that I wanted to be a different person.
That's really exciting. That's really fun. When you started working, what were some of the early jobs you had, or were there any that were stood out as interesting?
My very first jobs were the normal high school jobs. My very first one, like in an official place of business, was at McDonald's. As a vegetarian, that may not have been the best place to start working. It lasted 3 weeks. And then I worked at Taco Time, another Mexican fast food restaurant, which I still love Taco Time to this day. But I also, during that time, taught music, clarinet, saxophone, different instruments. I was big into music when I was in my teenage years. But my most interesting job of the early years was when I turned 18, I actually was able to work at the gold mine where my dad was an employee. Their policy was any of the college students, their employees could work there for their summer and winter breaks. So having a midsummer birthday, I got the bottom of the barrel for positions for that summer. I worked in the leach department, which is basically where they pull the chemicals out of the ore. And I was doing manual labor, like carrying sandbags and like doing hard work until they offered a thing where you could do alternating 12-hour shifts, monitoring like a diversion pond where they basically you're like watching the level of the water. That was my job for 12 hours a day. So I basically got to sit around and read. It was great. So it was much better than carrying heavy things. And then the winter break that I worked there, I was in the environmental department. And for all of you who don't know, Elko's really cold. And especially where the mines are, it gets like way below zero. So water testing was like chiseling liquids and air testing was really not fun. So I quickly decided that staying in Vegas during all my school breaks was the way to be. And I was done with the mining world.
I think that it's just natural you became a lawyer between McDonald's and mining. Like, what could be a more natural career path? Maybe you could talk about what actually led you to a career in law.
Yeah, it was a process of elimination, all the things I don't wanna do in my life. No, so really, I think my path to law began like a lot of young people, but to things you're exposed to. So I did not grow up around attorneys, but I did grow up reading. So my first real exposure to the legal world was John Grisham. All those great books are totally what the law is actually really. But it did inspire me. That's like something, an interesting area that I wanted to look into more. And I really didn't know any attorneys. After I graduated from high school, one of my mom's friends took me, I think it was to Tucson, where she was living at the time, and set me up to follow around a couple of her friends who were attorneys over that week so that I could see what their actual life was like. And I went to a mediation and I did different things where I got to see what lawyering was a little bit more, although they, of course, took me to all the fun things. So, like lunch. We love lunch. Then I did in undergrad, I studied environmental studies and political science, which took me towards the path of doing environmental law. Again, a lot of John Grisham stuff touches on that area. So it seemed like a fun, interesting fit. And then I did my first job it was my second law firm job, and they had an environmental department at the firm. And I was like, this environmental law stuff is really not very fun. I love the environment. I don't love environmental law. So it's a lot of just regulations and very dry materials. So I explored my options in law more through that firm and decided that litigation was the path I wanted to do. So my first 6 years, I did corporate litigation. And then the next few, I did other types of litigation. And litigation was a lot of fun when I was young. And then it didn't seem as fun to fight every day as I matured a little bit more. And when I opened my own firm 13 years ago now, I decided that I wanted to focus more on the transactional side of how to help businesses do things right instead of fighting over when things are wrong, although we still do that when it becomes necessary. I like the positive side of like nurturing business and helping them grow. And it just makes me feel better every day. But what I love about the law is there's so many facets where you can try different things and you don't have to do the same thing forever. You can go where your passion is at that time.
Earlier, you gave a list of some of the different services you offer. Can you expand on that a little bit and talk about what are some engagements or typical engagements for your firm?
Yeah, so a lot of times we'll have those brand new business owners coming in and they're like, just do the things. So we'll help them get that entire setup going on as far as an operating agreement, especially if they have partners. We love business prenups. That's basically what that is. We'll do the formation, get their tax ID number, register them with the state taxation in Nevada, the Department of Taxation, do local licensing, prepare customer agreements, investor agreements, whatever that looks like for that business. We help with all of that. And then we're typically their go to. So anytime something comes up and they just want to ask a question about strategy or ask a question about, hey, we have this employee issue. What should we do? This customer is giving us a hard time. Can you do a demand letter? We're there for all of those issues. So for some of our clients, we may not hear from them for a year till it's time for renewal. For some of our clients, it's every month, multiple times, and it really varies based on the needs of that particular client. And for, I guess, some of our business owners, they are those serial entrepreneurs where it's not just one business. It's, hey, we have 8 restaurant locations, so we need a separate entity for each of them and a holding company and one to hold the IT and a management company. And we have different owners for all of them. So it can be very simple single owner, or it can be much more complicated infrastructure for the businesses.
When someone comes to you for the first time as a first time business owner, do they accept that they need all of these different documents, or is that something that often they have to touch the stove and find out it's hot before they understand better?
Yeah. So a lot of times people will come to us and they've maybe set themselves up online through a third party service and they realize maybe not everything was done correctly and they need to fix the problems that they have. But we also get people who come to us and they haven't started yet and they're like, I want to do all of these parts myself. And that's fine too. So I always just let them know we're here for you when you are ready for us and you need us. And typically, if I'll encourage people, if you want to form it yourself and do the licensing and all of those things, that's okay. But really, when it comes to contracts, like the operating agreement and the customer agreements, at a minimum, having a legal review done is a good idea to make sure that everything you have there is binding and really protects you.
Are people coming to you with their AI lawyer advice that they've received?
For sure. And people will have that chat GBT contract that they prepared. And that's all fine and good. I encourage people, if you want to draft it yourself and bring me a draft, I can review it. But frankly, when I get a draft that the clients prepare because they want to do it themselves, a lot of times it's more work to clean that up than to just create it ourselves because we have good templates that we use that we've cultivated over the years. So it doesn't always make things better doing it that way.
There's a sign in a lot of mechanic shops that the rate is listed if you just bring your car in versus if you try and fix it first, which is usually or if you want to watch us fix it. Yeah.
Right. I feel like plumbers probably have that same skill as well.
Yeah. If you do it first, it's going to take us longer.
Yes, for sure.
Um, is there something people misunderstand about your practice or about the work that you all do?
Yeah, so I think less so than in the past. There's still the attorney jokes out there, but I think a lot of people think attorneys always mean bad news. And I think that can be the case for certain types of lawyers. Like you may not want to get a call from certain attorneys because it's like always going to be bad news from them. But with what I do in business law, that's not the case. We are not always just someone people comes to because it's a bad situation. Now, people in litigation may feel differently because it may never feel good to be in litigation. But for most of our clients, we're there because things are positive. They're moving in the right direction. They're growing. And we like to help them with taking whatever situation they're in and making it the best possible situation. So even if it is a dispute, how can we get the best possible result? I think we're very approachable. My office is very responsive. Like when people call in, we try to always have them, if they can't talk to an attorney, then they're scheduled like the next day. So we're not like, I think one of the more approachable firms probably because we keep it pretty chill. We're not super fancy. We just like to be able to connect with our clients in a good, meaningful way.
Since you mentioned it, maybe you could say if someone wants a consultation,
Mhm.
what the process looks like. Just to
Yeah. Yeah. So if somebody wants a consult, they just contact our office and they speak with one of our admin team who gets them scheduled. And usually, like I said, it's next business day typically is the scheduling time, unless their schedule doesn't allow that. Sometimes people are not available actually tomorrow. But and if they want in person, sometimes it may take a couple days because it's easier to do a phone consult than to have that in-person time. But we do offer Zoom, phone, or in-person consults. And in any of our markets, it's now again, if they want a specific attorney within the team, it may take longer. If they're open to any of the attorneys, it's a little bit faster. And once they have a consultation with us, we go over their issues. And it's really just an introductory meeting where we're discussing the issues and basically what can we do to help you or evaluating, do they even need anything at that point? Sometimes people will come to us and say, this is what I've done. Have I done all the things? But if they do have a situation where they want to retain or they need to retain, we then send them a retainer agreement digitally for electronic signature and a payment link. And once those are returned, they've retained and we get them any intake forms that they need to begin the process.
just like a John Grisham novel.
Just like it.
Is there anything else you wanted to mention about your firm or about the work that you do that we didn't talk about?
Um, I think really the biggest thing is it's a collaboration with our clients. So we believe in having those good connections and communication because we can't do it alone for our clients. We need their input, their feedback, and I don't know where they want to go without them being involved in the process. It is really a team effort for us to get them where they want to go.
That's a nice approach. Sometimes people just give you little dribs and drabs, and when you know the whole picture, you can really support people better.
Absolutely.
Want to move to some personal recommendations.
Yeah.
You mentioned it, and I know that you're an avid reader. Are there some books that you have gifted most often? I see you're checking notes.
I'm pulling up the list of books. So I love books and I think they're a wonderful gift. One that I just gave like a recommendation on a few days ago is the 6 phase meditation method by Vishen Lakiani. I actually am just now reading that one myself, but his prior book, which is The Code of an Extraordinary Mind, is amazing. And it goes through the 6 phase meditation method, which, if you have a hyper brain, like I know I do, this is a really good meditation method because it's not about clearing your brain. It's more about like the focused visualization and things like that. It's pretty fast paced. I really like it. Another one that I love is The Miracle Morning by Elrod. So The Miracle Morning is about like establishing a great morning routine so that you can set the precedent for an amazing day. And I incorporate the 6 phase meditation method in my Miracle Morning. One I like am super passionate about right now is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. So this one is really about how you can better leverage your time to not only be more productive, but have more fun time in your life. And I believe in that. Some business owners are terrible delegators and they want to control everything. And I understand I have to be involved in everything, but I also am not trying to do tasks that I don't have to do because I want to grow my business and I want to have recreation time and fun and take care of myself as well.
I love that you're such an avid reader. I know in the evening for myself after a busy day, sometimes my mental battery is a little low
Mhm.
and reading sometimes just suffers for it. But you've been able to maintain a very busy day and still enjoy your reading.
So I think one of the keys to that is audiobooks. So I do read physical books every day, but usually that's like my fun book before bed and maybe some other times too. But I make an effort every day to do every week one learning book of some sort. So it can be about health, it can be about fitness, it can be about business or personal, your mindset. But 1 hour a day is typically how I break that down because your average book is 6 to 8 hours. So maybe if they're longer and I have to do a couple hours a day, but I fit that into either my morning routine or when I'm out walking or driving to make sure I get that learning time in every day.
That morning routine is huge. One of the podcasters I like, Tim Ferriss, I don't know if he stole it, but he says, win the morning, win the day.
Yeah, I'm an early morning person for sure. So I really like to get up and have that time for myself before the rest of the world is moving in the day.
That's such a huge advantage. Anytime I come along after everybody else has started, I feel like I'm chasing it for the first half of the day.
Yeah, the bad part is like when you're then on a vacation or girls trip or something and you're like, "Why am I up at 4 a.m. when everyone else is still asleep?"
Oh,
Sorry,
see, when
man.
you said early, I was thinking six, but you're not thinking six.
Typically, that's like sleeping in. 6 is like a big sleep.
Not to me, but I respect that it is to you. You're a very active networker. Could you talk about some of the groups or organizations that help you connect with people here in the Valley?
I think chambers of commerce in general are amazing. I member of both the Henderson and Vegas chamber here locally, as well as chambers in my other markets that I'm in. And I think the chambers as a whole are a great way to meet a variety of people and businesses in whatever market you're in. In Vegas, in particular, one of the groups that I've really enjoyed also is the Commercial Real Estate Women. And they're also in all of the markets that I'm in. So it's a great way to connect with people in the real estate world, which is one of the areas of business law I do a lot of work in. Um, but I think whatever it is, whatever your area is, it's important just to get out there and find different groups and try them out to see where that fit is for you. And what I love may be very different than what someone else loves and what they're looking for. And it evolves too. So there's groups that I've been a member of, and in the past, they've been amazing for me. And then as the group evolves, it may not be as amazing. So the converse is also true. So I think it's important, especially if you tried a group like 10 years ago, don't rule out going and trying it again because things do change over time. But I'd say one of the most valuable, I guess, networking networking things I've done over the last several years is I participated in the Leadership Henderson program through the Henderson Chamber. And most chambers offer those kind of programs. Like, so Vegas Chamber does. I know, like in Reno, in Tempe, and Phoenix, they all offer like leadership programs. And it's such a good way to learn about business, learn about yourself, learn about your community, but also connect at a deeper level with other business professionals. Like the people I went through Leadership Henderson with, I'm still super close with. We network together, we travel together, we hang out together. But also the alumni from any of those leadership programs tend to be a very tight group as well. So I think that if you're looking for deeper relationships within the business community, those programs are amazing.
I love that. I've heard from both Henderson and Vegas Chamber leadership alums.
Mhm.
Just I've never heard a bad word from either chamber's alums. They just rave about those programs,
Yeah, it's an investment of time and money that has been 100% worth it.
and you really do come out of it with a tribe.
Absolutely. I spend time with people that I graduated from probably every week. And they're like really like when you go through life, that's like business and life, they're there to support you every step of the way. So it's amazing.
Love that. And then the idea that in networking, when you find something you're responding to, you just get more involved.
For sure. Yeah. The people that are more involved are always going to get more out of the experience, I think, than the people who just show up.
Right. Are there other groups or organizations doing work in the community that you recommend or support?
Gosh, yes, as far as the nonprofit groups out there, there's so many great groups in our community. One of the ones that I think is just amazing what they're doing is Project Maryland. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They basically, it's Wendy Schwaker is the founder, and she really just got this going. I don't know, 6, 7 years ago, maybe. It's not been that long, but she's taken something she started on her own and turned it into something huge. And its mission is to end period poverty. So many people in our community and outside of our community can't afford the feminine hygiene products that they need to allow them to really fully live their lives, go to school, go to work. And so they provide the supplies and the education to help those people just let be fully functioning members of our community. And I also really the Care Complex downtown Las Vegas. So Care Complex is provides services and support to the homeless population. And what makes them, I think, a little bit different is they're not just giving out food or just giving out a place to sleep. They're giving the resources that'll allow people to get jobs, get IDs, and be able to actually become housed. One of the things that they do offer is grants to people who have done those first steps and they've maybe with their assistance or without gotten jobs and they've shown that they can save some money and they've maintained a job for a period of time. They give them grants for the big first and last month's rent so that they can get off the streets.
That's amazing because
Yeah.
we all know how much harder it is to get a place to live now.
Yeah, and it's like little things too. Bus passes, helping them get ID, helping them with lockers so they have a safe place to put their things while they go to interviews or work. And those things all make a big difference.
Absolutely. Those are wonderful organizations. A little more fun question. I know you mentioned you're a vegetarian,
Mhm.
but what is your favorite meal in Las Vegas?
So if I'm going to be like a little fancy, like a little, I'm usually very like non-fancy, but I really like Esther's Kitchen. Their cacio e pepe, which is on their like brunch lunch menu, is so good. That's like probably my favorite food of all time, but it's a little bit naughty. It's okay. I try not to eat too much gluten and dairy, but yeah, I'll make an exception for that. It's so good. And then my like favorite like super chill meal is Tacotarian. I love Tacotarian and the Baja. One Baja taco and one Dorado taco is like my perfect meal.
Love it. Those are great spots. How about what's your favorite spot to view the city?
Probably from the top of any hike. I'm a huge hiker and I love to get out there and get that elevation up hiking. But as far as like places with great views, River Mountain Trail in Boulder City is amazing. If you hike up there, it's cool because it starts right in the heart of Boulder City. And when you get to the top of the trail, which is maybe 6 miles round trip to do this trail, from the top, you can see the strip. You can see Henderson. You can see Boulder City. You can see Lake Mead. It's so cool, like the views that you can get from up there. But Lone Mountain is also a great spot because it's right in the heart of Vegas and the heart. It's not too far out of the heart. Maybe it's like a long, but you hike up there. It's not that long of a hike. It's not that difficult. But if you get a nice early start with the headlamp, you can see the sunrise and the lights of the city before everyone else is up. So I love that one too.
That requires me to get up at, say, 4 a.m.
Yeah, last time I did it, we had a 4:45 a.m. start.
That is a beautiful spot, though. I've been there maybe in the afternoon and evening, but never in the morning.
You can get up, get down, hike all the way around, and be done at 7:30 or something.
Any other hikes you really enjoy?
I really like all of them, but I'm a little bummed that some hike locations are still closed from Hurricane Hillary. There was some great ones that may never come back, like Mary Jane Falls and Cathedral Rock. I love the Bristlecone trails, which are partially opened now. Rain Tree is amazing up at Mount Charleston. Just to see a tree that's been there for like thousands of years, I think is so amazing. Yeah, so those are some of my favorite Vegas area hikes. And then railroad tunnels is a great gateway hike for people, an easier hike. It's accessible. You can take a stroller, but anything that gets people outdoors, I think is amazing.
Yeah, the railroad one is nice and flat, too, if you're just starting to hike.
Yeah, you can take a little right hand turn and go up that big steep hill up by the hotel. You just want to add a little extra lung exertion along the way.
The railway pass?
I don't know.
The
Is
one?
it the Lake Mead Lodge or Hoover Lodge or something like that? I can't remember what it's called.
All right. Moving along, I have a final question for you. If you could share a phrase or a quote or idea with just millions of people, what would that be?
Just do it. Whatever it is that you want to do. I'm not saying just do it right now necessarily. Like having a plan in place is good, but like we all can do the things we want to do. And I think people make so many excuses and they delay things. And if you want to do something, start the action now. Figure out what step can I take now? What step can I take this week, this month, this year? And then continue down that path because we all put things off and we don't have to. Like if it's really your goal, set a plan in action.
Love it. And how can people follow or get in touch with you best?
My email is lmartin@leahmartinlv.com. And I'm pretty good about responding to those emails. So you can definitely reach me that way. My office number is 702-420-2733. But I'm also on all the social medias. My business is just Leah Martin Law on Facebook, and it's Leah Martin Law on Instagram. And then Leah Martin Law on YouTube as well, I believe. Looking at the thing.
I'll include whatever links in the
Okay,
note.
perfect. Yeah, it's just at Leah Martin Law for the YouTube. But I also have personal Instagram and YouTube at Living La Vida Leah.
Do you want to mention what that is?
Yeah, so a few years ago, 2 years ago now, I decided to just do it. And I love hiking and I love travel. And I love focusing on creating a sustainable like work life. I don't like work life balance, but integration where I'm having some fun every day. And I created, with Ben's genius help picking a name, the Living La Vida Leah as a kind of a platform just to express some of the fun that I'm doing and the travel and all the places and things I'm experiencing.
Love it. We will include links to all of those things in the show notes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This has been
Always,
fun.
and I appreciate it. And we'll let you go back to your Grisham lawyering.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks.